Us again this morning. As you well know, in the course of the program, we also have our regular companion segment, and that's the newspaper review. We've got business, we've got updates in the world of sports and entertainment news. But as always, you know, the news comes first, and Lydia or DJ Ochi will be bringing us the news this morning. A news in brief. All right, Lydia, it's over to you. Looking good this morning.
Thank you, Rhoda. Good morning and welcome to the morning news. The One Planet Summit has been rounded off in Paris, France, with the participating world leaders and critical key players pledging wide-ranging commitments towards turning the promise of the Paris Agreement into reality. President Muhammadu Buhari led Nigeria's delegation to the summit to underscore his administration's stand on delivering a climate-secure future.
We came here primarily to look at what the world has to offer so that we can key into it and ensure that we get our own fair share. We receive serious commitment, particularly from the French government, from other more advanced countries like Sweden, who are willing to assist. We have figures like Bill Gates, who has promised a huge amount of money. The European Union also has keyed into this event, and they are willing to offer significant assistance. In mind, we have the issue of circular economy, we have the issue of renewable, we have the issue of waste management. And in this waste management, you can turn waste into wealth.
One of the biggest ones, of course, is the recharging of Lake Chad, but, there are other areas in which, we're working towards. We have to, decrease gas flaring, and we have to start investing in solar energy, renewable energy.
And back home, the Federal Executive Council is taking steps towards amending Section 15 of the Deep Offshore Act. Speaking shortly after the Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja, the Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibe Kachiku, says the amendment will ensure more revenue to government.
We've worked on very hard over the last 1 year is to get that amendment, because once we do, the net effect for us is close to $2 billion extra revenue for the Federation. So that was approved today very happily. The other two interventions that we had, one was, of course, you've always been asking me about what we're doing about gas. Well, one of the approvals today was an award of the contract for over $2.7 billion to 3 consortia that would finish up the AKK pipeline, which is the Abuja, Kaduna, Kano pipeline.
Still on oil and gas, motorists in Abuja metropolis are experiencing some relief as queues have significantly reduced in most petrol stations within the city. A monitoring team led by a managing director of the Petroleum Products Marketing Company, Umar Ajia, confirmed that normalcy has returned to most parts of the country.
All the stations we went, they have products, and there are no longer queues outside the stations. Essentially, this is the product of a lot of hard work and effort between ourselves, our sister agencies, DPR, PPPRA, and the security agencies.
We made that promise, and as you can see, we have delivered.
Away from oil and gas, Niger State government has released another batch of 619 cattle recovered from rustlers to the rightful owners from Zamfara State. Rose Ajia reports that herders from neighboring states are visiting Zungeru in Wushishi local government area of the state, where recovered rustled cattle are camped to check.
This is what we have been doing for the past 10 days, and we are able to screen those that their own cattle are genuine, they are the genuine owners.
The Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons says it has finalized plans to destroy more than 5,000 illicit weapons recovered from Zamfara State. Program Coordinator Dixon Said said this in Abuja at the Physical Security and Stockpile Management Workshop. And the federal government says it is fast-tracking the modernization of rail systems across the country as part of strategies to reposition the economy. While inspecting the ongoing construction of Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail line, Minister of Transportation Chibuike Rotimi Amechi says the move reflects government's plan to build a globally competitive economy with first-grade infrastructure.
We rest assured that we are chasing the Chinese to finish 2018. Don't forget the contract is 3 years. That's their own argument. But our own argument is that we need it before 2019 January.
It's impressive. We see that the right of way up to Abeokuta is almost ready, and information at various stages. The bypass, the underpass, and the culverts are in place.
Our last report says Nigerian leaders must do everything possible to preserve and sustain the nation's history as a guide for remembering placing high premium on their heritage. Former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Martin Uhomoibi said this when he visited the Director General of the NTA.
To do away with the insinuations and falsehoods and half-truths, and to present the correct picture, and to show our people the way forward, the way we must work to develop our country.
We have a responsibility to project Nigeria, we have a responsibility to protect Nigeria, and we have a responsibility to ensure that the national interest of this great country is maintained and upheld.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Rhoda after this break. Good morning.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) hereby informs the general public that shareholders that are yet to register for the ongoing free e-dividend registration should approach their banks or registrars to mandate the bank accounts for the collection of their dividend electronically, including unclaimed dividends not exceeding 12 years of issue. The free registration sponsored by SEC closes on 31st December 2017. Furthermore, investors that bought shares of the same company during public offers using different names are given forbearance up till 31st December 2017 to approach their stockbrokers or registrars to regularize their shareholdings in line with the Securities and Exchange Commission's rules on customer identification. Thereafter, all shares not regularized shall be transferred on trust to the Capital Market Development Fund. These are part of the Securities and Exchange Commission's initiative to further improve investors' benefit and confidence in the Nigerian capital market.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime. We bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
Is Is that young man working, or is he carrying a spade, digging the road and making it worse?
Young man, get off the way, let me pass.
God bless me first. Can Jeroboam and his homies make a meaningful income from gambling?
During recession, this is what I use to pay my school fees.
I want to play. I want to win the money.
That's okay. Pick up the dice and roll up your destiny. Wow.
Please now. Don't be my money on that money from Kobe.
Get rich quick. Another rib-cracking episode of Professor John Bull exposes the downside of some of the things we do to get rich quick. Smart in our own eyes, dumb in the real sense. Keep a date with us and laugh like never before.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network, Glow Unlimited.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. Nurofen Express works at the source of pain, fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA. Now, let's bring you up to date in the world of business as the working conditions and remunerations across Africa are responsible for labor flight outside the continent. The International Labour Organization says Africa must improve on the quality of jobs, not just the increase in numbers. Let's get more update now from our business news correspondent, Kolo Mohammed.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us on Business News. Most of Africa's population have one form of job or another, which at least see people go out in the mornings and return in the evenings. Poverty, however, remains a huge challenge across Africa. This then calls for the comparison between quantity and quality of jobs across the continent. The International Labour Organization, ILO, says decent working conditions and sufficient remuneration are necessary if Africa intends to upward review its productivity.
Across Africa, we understand that the biggest challenge really is jobs. But in the ILO, it's not just about jobs in terms of quantity, it's jobs quality. And this is where decent comes in. Because if you do not have quality jobs, then you have a situation where, for instance, people who are not adequately remunerated basically go home at the end of the month with funds or a salary that's not sufficient to take care of their needs as workers, also as a family head. In the ILO, we call these people the working poor, because really, despite the fact that they're working or going to work from the first to the last day of the month, they do not get sufficient income at the end of the month to be able to adequately take care of themselves and their families.
Some experts are of the opinion that most of the labor flight out of Africa is necessitated by poor workplace conditions and remunerations, plus absence of social dialogue between employers and employees. And volume of transactions on electronic platforms in the third quarter of 2017 stood at 213,693,964, valued at 19.33 trillion naira. Data released Wednesday by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, indicate that the figures comprise electronic payment channels in the Nigerian banking sector. Nigeria Interbank Settlement System instant payment transactions dominated the volume of transactions recorded. 97.5 million volume of instant payment transactions valued at 13.963 trillion naira was recorded during the quarter. A total of 15.83 trillion naira worth of credit was allocated by the banks in the third quarter of 2017 to the private sector. The highest credit allocation in the period under review of 3.54 trillion naira and 2.27 trillion naira respectively went to oil and gas and manufacturing sectors. Quarter on quarter, the total number of bank staffs increased by 9.16% from 75,607 in the second quarter of 2017 to 82,531 in the third quarter. And now a quick look at the summary of closing figures from the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That's it on Business News. Good Morning Nigeria continues shortly. Many thanks for your time.
All right, thank you very much there, Kolo Mohammed, for the business package. Next for us, newspaper review.
Our regular newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyebi, is already in the studio. Bayo, good morning.
Good morning, Rhoda.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Yes.
Good morning, Kingsley.
Morning.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, so Rhoda, let's begin with you. I mean, we have different lead stories for the papers.
All the papers.
So there's no common lead for all of them, but of course, we have busy front pages. Let's begin with you.
All right, let's begin with the blueprint. And on the blueprint, the lead story, "My regret as head of state," and that's a statement credited to former head of state, Gowon. It says, "My regret as head of state," says Gowon. That's a story that's on page 6 of the blueprint. Let's now move over to the Punch. On the Punch, it says civil servants to forfeit 86 vehicles and 4 houses to federal government. Civil servants to forfeit 86 vehicles, 4 houses to federal government. It's the lead story for the Punch, and it's on page 7 of the Punch. Now, the big story on this day, it says, "We won't be deterred," says EFCC after attacks on Mago's farmhouse, leaves 1 dead. "We won't be deterred," says EFCC after attack on Mago's farmhouse, leaves 1 dead. That's the lead story on this day, and these are the lead stories on the blueprint, the Punch, and the This Day newspaper.
Well, let's take a look at the Daily Sun. Daily Sun newspaper. The lead story for Daily Sun comes with a kicker, and it says, "Restructuring. Northern senators blow hot," with a rider accused other zones of imposition attempt. That story is in greater detail on page 3. And then there's an earpiece there. That story is also on the front page of 1 or 2 other papers. It says an earpiece beside the nameplate of Daily Sun newspaper. And it says, "Fuel tanker wreaks havoc in Lagos." Of course, with a rider on the fuel situation, it says, "Scarcity persists in Plateau, Kano, and Ebonyi." That story is in greater detail on pages 34 and 35. Now, we are to the Independent newspaper. Independent newspaper above the nameplate has the story of that accident that occurred yesterday on the Festac Lake Bridge. That's between Amuwo, Dolphin, and Festac. It says 21 vehicles and 5 motorcycles burnt in Lagos tanker explosion. That story continues on page A5. Well, the lead story for the paper talks about the East-West Road. 300 billion naira wasted on East-West Road. And that's according to the federal government. Plus 2 riders, while fuel scarcity continues, says Kachuku, that's Minister of State Petroleum, and federal government to demolish Jibo and Costain bridges in Lagos. That's a running story. Another story there, just before we bring in Bio, a story on the CSOs and the bill currently before the National Assembly. That story is on the front page of the Independent. The headline, of course, says, "CSOs reject NGOs regulatory bill and want operational independence." CSOs, that's civil society organizations, reject NGOs, that's non-governmental organization regulatory bill, and want operational independence. You also have that story on the front page of the pilot by way of a photo story. You have, it says the demonstrators yesterday, that's a coalition of civil society groups, saying no to hash NGO bill. That's yesterday in the Federal Capital Territory.
It's also a story on this day. It's just above the nameplate of this day. It says civil society groups and other stakeholders oppose NGO regulatory bill amidst protest. That's on page 48 of this day. All right, Bayo, let's start with that.
Okay. Well, the bill was proposed by Honorable Umar Buba in the House of Representatives, and he says there's no legal framework to regulate the activities of the non-governmental organizations. Therefore, there is a proposal in the bill for registration to ensure transparency and accountability so as to infuse some local content. They also say that this is to prevent the NGO or CSO from promoting terrorism and also instances of money laundering. However, the opponents of the bill, particularly the non-governmental organizations and CSO, are seeking to self-regulate themselves. The bill, they say, has 32 sections, which is a violation of freedom of association and freedom or their right to assembly. The bill, they say, is a duplication because there are several other laws that are already regulating the activities of the NGO, particularly the one by the ICPC. And they say what is required is enforcement. Therefore, they are contending that the proposal in it to register faith-based organization is also in itself a duplication because they are already registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. And therefore, the bill proposed that they will have annual renewal and the activities can also be restricted. These are the fallouts from the board. But however, there are some of them, the NGOs accept that there are some bad eggs among the NGOs. But it is not enough because of a few bad eggs to try and punish everybody. They say, for instance, an NGO got money for internally displaced persons in the Northeast and disappeared with it. They also have talked about the NGOs were also to contribute positively. There was an outbreak of meningitis in Kano, and it was an NGO within 24 hours that was able to get meningitis vaccine available in the country to help the situation. So there are the positive sides and there are also the negative side. But however, the whole idea is that there is about 1 billion naira worth of money coming to CSOs and NGOs in Nigeria, and there is a lot of concern about that. Sometimes, some of them deliberately pursue the path of negative report about Nigeria as a means of getting petroleum.
So how do you deal with that? By the point you just raised now, you just talked about the sometimes negative activities of some NGOs. We also discussed on this program, the plight of IDPs as well as the situation in Borno, and a guest from Borno, I remember him very clearly, mentioning on that occasion that you now have a proliferation of various NGOs in Maiduguri. They have taken over hotel accommodation. According to him, about 1,000 of them. And the question he posed was, what are they doing? What is the impact of what they are doing?
In fact, as far back as 2006, I think, President Olusegun Obasanjo described them as husband and wife NGO because he was deriding those of them that are actually using the opportunity of NGO and CSO to further their family nest. But be that as it may, there are other NGOs that have been filling the void about government activity. So care has to be taken in the bid to sanitize the system, not to throw away the baby with the bathwater.
That's right. Bayo, again, the point there, they're asking for operational independence. What does that mean? A parallel government?
No, certainly. Well, that is the essence of the public hearing. Everybody will bring their perspective, and the legislators, in their wisdom, will be able to take care of all interest. In fact, the Speaker has also acknowledged the contributions of the CSO. Talking about cleaning up the baby, there has been more campaigns about cleaning up baby SARS rather than throwing away baby SARS with the bathwater. There was demonstrations in Kano and Kaduna, and so far, there have been demonstrations in 8 states of the Federation, all calling for sanitizing SARS because it has some positive contribution into about tackling violent crimes. Now,
all right, Bayo, let's go now to other stories. I'd like to take you to
the issue of corruption. I want to
no. Let me first of all take you to a story that's trending on both the Blueprint and This Day, and
okay.
It's above the masthead above the nameplate on Blueprint. It says, after $21 billion loss, federal government moves to amend Deep Offshore Act, approves about 2.7 billion naira for Abuja Kaduna, Kano gas pipeline. It's also a story that is also on the Blueprint, and it's above the lead story, above the lead story this morning. It says Nigeria lost 21 billion naira on oil production sharing contract. Kachuku insists no plans to hike fuel price.
Yeah, that loss that the Minister of State for Petroleum referred to has been over a period of 20 years. Okay. You recall that even in the past, last administration, there were allegations of about 20 billion. First it was 48 billion, then it came down to 20 billion that was lost between NNPC and the central bank. But those ones will have to be reconciled.
Production sharing contracts, those are very technical issues.
Yes.
In the oil and gas industry. I mean, the low-cost classicals, of course, will be the Ashland oil case.
Yes.
That happened several decades ago. But these are technical issues in terms of production sharing contracts. Who gets what, when a producer, gets into the field to mine oil, and then, how the process are then shared to whom and by whom and when.
So these are the plus and minuses relating to that over the period of 20 years. It's not as if that money has just disappeared all of a sudden. Sure. However, the areas of corruption, there are concerns about the East-West Road, and the Minister of the minister in charge says that 40 contractors will now have questions to answer from the Economic and Financial Crime because 300 billion naira cannot be accounted for. It was meant for the 657-kilometer dual carriageway of East-West Road. Another one is the civil servant who is now to forfeit 86 vehicles, 4 houses, 8 containers containing household items, and 1 quarry plant. And guess what his position was? A director of finance in the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing. So he acquired power and worked for himself in housing these alleged items acquired for himself.
And Bios, it's talking about the fight against corruption. Remember the story that was trending during, that's been trending for a while, and that's the payment of the whistleblower. There's a new development to read now. It's on the Punch, and it's just on top of the right-hand corner. It says, Ikoyi whistleblower jets out after first tranche payment.
Yes, he's been paid his first tranche. And his lawyer was even joking. He said his client did not run mad as Nigerians were speculating before. He's due to get his second tranche early next year in January. However, the sad event is that the farmhouse of the acting chairman of the EFCC has been attacked by a gunman. This is the third attack. You will recall that an operative of the EFCC was shot in Port Harcourt. And just about 2 or 3 months ago, an office of the EFCC in Abuja was shot at, but that was repelled. But this time around, a policeman has been murdered at the farmhouse of the acting chairman. That indicates that corruption is fighting back.
All right, Bayo, that's the lead story. We haven't talked about this on the Nigerian parliament. I just want to go across. So this has to do with the Constitutional Amendment. If you recall, the National Assembly has already amended the Constitution and then transmitted the amendments to the various state houses of assembly. The lead story comes with a kicker. Constitutional amendments. Benue Assembly annuls State Joint Account Committee and others. With a rider, Nasarawa lawmakers approve 13 of 15 amendments. That story is on page 6. So while we are all concerned about other issues, the State House of Assembly are gradually now considering the amendments that were forwarded to them. And for journalists and media people, a headline there below the nameplate of Nigerian pilot, 2 Nigerians and 260 other journalists in detention globally. And this is according to the CPJ, Committee for the Protection of Journalists. Details of that story can be found on page 10. All right, so Bayo, that's the most that we can take. See you again tomorrow.
Tomorrow will be another day. Thank you.
All right, it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing the electric car or the electric vehicle and what implications it will have for Nigeria going forward.
The Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, the Made in Nigeria campaign. In the midst of unprecedented multiple challenges, our great country Nigeria, as Africa's largest economy, is surely marching on to a new era of all-round prosperity, especially through re-engineered and diversified economy, powerfully driven by the change agenda of President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR.
We will patronize local entrepreneurs. We will promote the manufacturing powerhouses. Our objective is to make Nigeria a new manufacturing hub.
It is not time to complain. It is time to join the campaign. It is time for economic recovery, growth and diversification of our economy by Made in Nigeria.
Come join us. Mom says we have more than enough.
Wherever you may travel, whoever you will be with, we wish you a supreme Christmas. Be supreme, Nigeria.
Mommy more, where would I be without you? Now you be my best friend, now you be my sister, now you be my mentor, and you are still my mama.
Now you wash my infant head, everything for you I go do, mama.
Every day should be Mother's Day. Show your mom love in the Peekadoo way. Prepare a special meal with Peak Milk. Peak. Reach for your peak.
It's that time of the year when we appreciate all those that mean so much to us. Our sponsors, our clients, government at all levels, corporate bodies, advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups, political parties, businesses, and above all, you, our esteemed viewers. Together, we made 2017 great. Together, we shall make 2018 even greater. That's why we say thank you. Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
All right, welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on the NTA. Now, today we're looking at electric cars, and as the world moves ahead with efforts to switch from the petrol and diesel cars to the electric cars, the task before Nigeria is keying into this revolution and avoid being left behind. Let's take a look at this report from our correspondent, Anthony Gandonu, who visited the Covenant University in Ota, Ogun State, to look at what and how engineers and scientists are responding to this development.
Towards the end of the 19th century, the world saw the introduction of the modern gasoline fuel internal combustion engine by a German inventor, Carl Benz, in 1885. The evolution in car technology industry brought the first practical electric and hybrid cars invented by Scottish Robert Anderson. Speaking on the making of electric vehicle, the head of electric automobile unit Covenant University Center for Research, Innovation and Discovery, Ota, Ogun State. Professor James Omoleye said, with the abundant resources in the country, Nigeria stands to benefit from the switch over to electric car usage. What makes an electric car different from petrol fuel car in the area of maintenance? Professor Omoleye, and a lecturer in the Department of Electrical and Information Engineering, Dr. Hope Orovwoye, spoke on the economic value and environmental benefits of electric cars to Nigeria and Nigerians.
Can also tap into and say, well, if we are dependent 100% on imported fuel combustion engine, we can be part of the race for electric automobile because the resources are there. Human resources there, natural resources there for Nigeria to develop electric automobile.
So what the world is driving at now is that since we know that burning of fossil fuel is what is giving us this problem, let's stop using it. Hence, the world has decided to go into the use of renewable energy, of which electric car is one of them, to be able to power our mobility so that we can move away from this smoke that we generate from the burning of fossil fuel when we drive our cars all around.
Blaming the present backward position of the nation in keying into the vision of switch over to inability of private investors to collaborate with government, the experts appealed to government to also create enabling environment for manufacturing sector.
All right, thank you very much, Anthony, for that background report. Of course, we have guests with us here in the Abuja studios as well as at our Lagos Network Center to discuss this issue in further detail. First, we would like to at this time welcome the Director General of the National Automotive Design and Development Council, Mr. Jelani Aliyu. Of course, it's a world-famous individual. So, Jelani, a pleasure to have you again on the program.
Mine too.
Okay. And then we also have with us here Engineer Musa Chadi. He's of the Center for Technology Development and Extension Services at Kaduna Polytechnic. Chadi, a pleasure that you're with us on the program this morning.
Thank you.
All right.
And we have joined us from Lagos, Engineer Bala Zaka. He's a petroleum engineer and chartered accountant, and he's joined us from our Lagos studios. Thank you for joining us this morning, Engineer Zaka.
Thank you, and good morning, Nigeria.
Also within there, in Lagos, we have James Omoleye. He is a professor of chemical engineering and a team lead electric automobile unit products development cluster at the Covenant University, Ota. James Omoleye, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's begin with the Director General of the Design and Development Council, that's for the automobiles in the country, Jelani Aliyu. What is the electric car or electric vehicle all about? And how is it different from what Nigerians are used to today?
Well, generally the automotive sector globally is going through an incredible revolution. And part of that revolution, the three mega trends, that is electrification of vehicles, autonomy, and ride sharing. And I think the most exciting aspect of this revolution is the electrification of vehicles, where vehicles are no longer powered by fossil fuels or petrol or diesel, but are electrified. So they have an electric motor in there that drives the vehicles. This leads to enhanced efficiency, mitigation of gas, of greenhouse gas emissions, and vehicles that are more durable because there's less components in those vehicles. So these are the types of vehicles that the industry is really moving onto. So there's a tidal wave coming, and Nigeria needs to be part of that.
Are these developments still at the stage of incubation? Because if it's a tidal wave is coming, or we're already seeing the remodeling of various plants to adjust to these new developments?
Oh, this is a reality, because as early as 2011, a vehicle that I worked on the design of, the Chevrolet Volt, has been on the road in the United States. And since after that, many other companies have introduced electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles. So this is a reality. The exciting thing is this is gaining momentum at an exponential rate. So there are more and more products that will be electrified. This is not only the future, it is the reality already.
All right, let's bring in Engineer Musa Chadi. Just as Mr. Jelani just said now that it's gaining momentum, so it's not new. It's something that's been on for quite a while. But why is it gaining a lot of momentum at this time, since it's not something that's, you know, has just started? It's been there for a long time. Why now?
I think the technology is now ready for the market. That's what's happened over the past few years. The electric vehicle concept has been in existence for over 100 years. The materials, the components, the design process, all of it has been in place for quite a while. But the synergy to bring it all together into a vehicle that's ready for the market is what has made all this come into, is what has made us see electric vehicles moving around.
Are you saying we're ready, the market is ready for it now?
The market is definitely ready for it now. You know,
all right, Chadi, let's pause here in the meantime and go to Lagos. Professor James Omolaye is of Covenant University, and of course he's also is a team lead, we understand, of the Electric Automobile Unit Product Development Cluster at the university. Of course, it's right there on the split screen. Professor Omolaye, well, let's reduce this to the level of the common man, you know, the layman to understand. We all know if you want to, that so-called internal combustion engine, you go to the filling station, you buy petrol, or if it is a diesel-powered vehicle, you buy diesel, and then you start your engine. Of course, we have seen the transition from those days when they used to wind the engine before it starts. So what is this new fad about electric cars?
Thank you very much. Electric car is simply an assembly of parts, and all the facilities, all the units needed are in the open market. And it's just like somebody that's building a house. The architect designs and determines the kind of materials to be used. And the builders come and source for it in markets and bring them together and assemble them. And I think we are ready for that in Nigeria. The first one, sponsored by Covenant University, came on the road in year 2010. And it won an award for the university in 2011, all Nigerian universities competition, research fair. So Nigeria is ready for it. It's been done, it's been coupled, it's been designed, and it's successful. And I know that we can do it even at commercial level.
Stay with you, just before we bring in Engineer Zaka, the power, the energy for the car to move is in the battery. As I said, explain this, you know, to, let's say, a downfall driver, for instance, and say, look, all he would now need would be a battery that he doesn't need to buy petrol or he doesn't need to buy diesel for his tuke-tuke if he's operating in Benin. How does that work?
Batteries are called accumulators. They have chemical energy that can be converted to electrical energy. And this electrical energy can be used to power electric drive, or what you call motor in layman's language. Pepper grinders have motors, they connect to electricity on the wall. But this time around, we connect to batteries, which now powers the electric motor, which now drives the wheels. And so when you run for a certain number of kilometers, the battery runs down, and you take it back. Before it runs down, you have a signal that your battery is weak. You take it back and recharge. And for every charge, there is a number of kilometers the car can travel. And so you can recharge and recharge. And the length of distance, the coverage, depends on the capacity of the battery. Before now, people have been using the lead-acid battery, which is very heavy and limits how far vehicle can go. But modern technology has advanced to the stage where we now use what we call the lithium battery, which is much lighter and can cover about 3 times the distance of lead-acid battery. And it's at this stage that the world now gets ready to use electric vehicle not only for coverage within city, but also outside the city. And moreover, the charging, even though you can do it using generator, but now we also apply solar power to charge the battery. So as it were, it's like a renewable energy transportation means. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's bring in Engineer Bala Zaka. Let's take it further. All of the guests seem to be agreeing that, look, we are ready, the market is ready for this. But then there is certain infrastructure needed aside the battery. We're looking at charging also that needs to be in place. In Nigeria, how much of that structure do you think we have?
So far, we are not behind. What is basically happening is a global campaign, you know, requiring global adjustment and discipline by respective countries and respective economies. And when you have campaigns like that that are global in nature, they are not targeted at a particular economy or a particular country. So the underlying things that what every economy or country needs to look at is that there will be technical implications, there will be operational implications, there will be economic implications, and also political implications if you look at it. So it is left to the individual economies or countries to look at how they are going to key in. There will definitely be what I can best describe as a global economic motion. So the question now is this: is Nigeria prepared with the necessary kinetics to key into the global economic motion and positively gain? I think at this stage I can say yes. But with time, we are going to know if we are going to be lagging behind or we are going to be in tandem with other economies. But definitely we are likely to see adjustments in partnerships. We are likely to see new relationships that will lead to economic boost in this aspect. And remember, there is what we call health implications, because we are actually moving away from fossil fuel. Before now, we were dealing with what I can best describe as coal. We graduated to a cleaner fuel like crude oil and gas. Now we are going into renewables. So definitely we are going to see interplays of economies.
All right, Zaka, thank you very much. Again, we'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Let's return to our guests in the Abuja studios. Mr. Jelani Aliyu, obviously the momentum that we are seeing now with regard to electric vehicles, it's founded on policy, you know, founded, of course, on incentives and, you know, a whole raft of other measures by those countries that have taken the lead in this new development. What is it that we have in terms of a policy framework, if any, to accommodate or otherwise to receive when we are ready, assuming we are not, when we are ready, to plug into the new momentum of electric vehicles?
The most exciting thing about this is the potential and what could be done. I decided to come back to Nigeria not too long ago because of all the exciting opportunities that exist, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. And this is one of them. I'm happy to say that now one of the mandates of the National Automotive Design and Development Council is to empower and work towards adoption and promotion of electric vehicles. So going forward, this would be one of our objectives, to see that Nigeria is not left behind in the electrification of vehicles and to begin to strategize policy that would support that technology. So we have already started discussions with relevant stakeholders, international companies that are into renewable power, to see how we can work with them to support this development. So we will soon be strategizing a policy to support electrification of vehicles. We were in South Africa not too long ago to discuss with potential FDI or OEMs to come into Nigeria and produce their vehicles. Companies like BMW, Volkswagen, Nissan, Toyota. And what's surprising is, although I kept waiting to hear it, not one of those companies said that the big challenge was power in Nigeria. They know and they acknowledge that we do have power deficiency, but it's not a stumbling block to them. So there are people out there in Nigeria willing to work with us closely to overcome our challenges. So NADDC, in collaboration with all relevant government and private sector stakeholders, would be going into strategizing a policy that will support the production and usage of electric vehicles in the country.
Jelani, thanks, but I want Chadi to come in here. In terms of policy, can we say that we have, as it were, fully acclimatized or even exhausted, our usage of the internal combustion engines, that we're now seeking to take a leap with the rest of the world into electric cars? I'm saying that because when did we leave the carburetor engines in this country? Only recently that we now started having the so-called fuel injectors, and mechanics all over the place are still grappling with this.
If I may come in from my answer with respect to the Center of Technology Development in Kaduna Polytechnic, what we have done is to start from the inside, come out. In other words, Center of Technology Development was set up to master the technology using indigenous engineers, using indigenous graduates, and find these Nigerians who are out there who can build technology for us from the inside out. Our core plan involves getting recent graduates straight from the universities into a design environment, into a design culture, completely different from what you expect today. Why we really look forward to working with the international community, but over the past 2 years, we've seen too many examples of Nigerians sitting here in Nigeria designing systems that have to do with the component parts of an electric vehicle from the inside out. The Center of Technology Development in Kaduna Polytechnic is using such an approach. While it's the internal combustion engine has been with us for quite a while, yes, we repair it, yes, we fix it or possibly assemble it. But I think the solution to the understanding is actually designing it from the inside out, where you have fresh graduates get involved in the process of designing and building the car. Once that is achieved.
Yeah, Engineer Musa Chade, thanks. You're looking at it from the design and development stage. I'm just talking also about the end user. And that's why my question is, I just pause you and then take the question to Professor Omoleye at our Lagos Network Studio. Professor Omoleye, the impression is that the Nigerian market appears to be ready for the electric cars. And I'm saying that in terms of market reception, when did we leave internal combustion engines using carburetors before we got into what is it called? The electric transmission that you have in some of the vehicles. And our mechanics and drivers are still struggling to master all of this. And then suddenly now we hear of electric cars. How do we sort this out in terms of the sociology of it?
Yes, thank you. I want to say that there are two different technologies entirely. And I also want to add that electric vehicle technology is a lot simpler than fuel combustion engine technology. We have artisans that repair televisions, radios, and so on. So the technology is simply diverting from repairing television and radio to repairing other things, which they can be taken through within a short time. It's not a challenge at all to get our artisans ready to start to serve it. And moreover, I want to say that electric mobility does not require much maintenance. Actually, it's a lot less of maintenance required to use electric car than fuel combustion engine. But even with that, they can easily be trained to man it.
Very much, Prof. I'd like to get the views of Engineer Bala Zaka. I know that a lot of economies are working hard to be less dependent on oil. But then this technology is also going to phase out fuel combustion engines. What impact will this have on the oil industry?
First of all, we have to see it as a global campaign and a global shift. Anything that is global in nature, countries and economies are expected to key in. So in the case of Nigeria, we are very much in shape. We are not behind. The question is, to what extent, like I said, are we ready to develop the necessary kinetics to make sure we key in? Because there will be economic implications, like we said. There will be commercial implications, and there will be technical implications. So when you look at economic implications, one way or the other, because we produce fossil fuel, there will be, that aspect will be impacted. But even before now, we should remember that we have basically been importing PMS, or that distillate called petrol. So we don't really have much to lose. We shall still going to make sure, fly our aeroplanes with what we call kerosene or aviation fuel. We are still going to require plastics that will take care, or that will be the container for the batteries. So what is happening actually now, it is actually time for different economies, for partnerships. You know, different manufacturers are now talking. You know, if lithium will be a major raw material, the question we are now going to ask is, do we have lithium in Nigeria? Does Zimbabwe have lithium? You know, does DR Congo have lithium? What can we produce? What can we key in? How can we benefit? But as far as simplicity is concerned, of course, we are moving from internal combustion engines, and we are just going to change that and start using rechargeable batteries. But in the component of that thing called the battery, what can Nigeria contribute? Because there is no one country that will produce everything. So even if it is just the plastic that will be the container, and we have crude oil, and from the crude oil and petrochemicals we can start producing the containers, that will be fantastic for us. That means we are going to globally key in and benefit.
I was actually asking, and that's where I'd like you to really speak to right now. What happens to our oil if we go electric? Because we're still trying to, of course, build our economy. But then what happens to our oil? That means people will not buy from us anymore if everybody goes electric.
Oh, crude petrol is just one component. PMS is just one component as far as distillates are concerned. And when we say distillates, we are talking about the product you are going to get when you refine crude petroleum, or when you refine crude oil. You know, we have LPG, right? We have aviation fuel. We have bitumen. We have plastics. We have so many things. Generally, we have so many distillates that will come out. So PMS, or petrol, is just one thing. And the fact that we are not going to be using petrol cars doesn't mean petrol will not still be used in generators. Generators will still exist. Other areas where you are going to consume PMS will still exist. So it's just one component that is likely to be affected. But even as we sacrifice PMS, what we are saying is this: from petrochemicals, we can produce something that we can use to key in. That container called the plastic can be produced, and it's a product or a byproduct or one of the things you can get from crude oil. So as far as Nigeria is concerned, I think Nigeria is well blessed, Nigeria is well positioned, and Nigeria has what it takes to be able to key into the economic dynamics and make sure we survive comfortably.
Well, gentlemen, stay with us at the Lagos Network Center. While we are discussing the petroleum economics of the advent of the electric cars, you were talking about petrol being only one of the components. Will lubricants also be used in the electric cars? I want Professor Amoloye to respond to that. Will we still need lubricants the way you have engine oil now? Of course, you probably will need grease because of the joints and so on and so forth.
All right, thank you. We have two different types of lubricants. The lubricants for the fuel combustion engine, that will not be needed. They also have lubricant for all the transmission, the tire, the wheels, that will still continue to be used. And so petroleum is still relevant. I think what we are saying is that what we are going to lose in terms of PMS, we can gain by also being part of the production of electric vehicle, since we have the capacity for it.
Professor Moloye, thanks. Let's come back to Aliu with us here in the studios. Well, lithium battery has been identified as perhaps, if you like, the major driver of the electric cars. There will be other batteries that will come up eventually, but there were problems recently with the lithium battery. I think it was 787 that came up, had some issues with that, and of course you also had issues with one of the mobile phones, one of the smart applications that we all use. Has that problem been overcome? That's the first question, and then I'll pop another one.
Whenever you have a new technology, there will always be challenges. But the good thing about it is that those involved in the development of that technology continue to improve it. So a lot of progress has been made. We're getting longer range. The batteries are more intact, stronger. But then also beyond, solid batteries, there are companies that are looking into electrolytes. So instead of charging a battery, you'd pull up to a charging stations, drain the old electrolyte, and then put in a fluid that is charged. So there are research and development into other ways of getting that electric charge into the vehicle and making it faster. Instead of having to wait, 4 or longer hours, this electrolyte would just be pumped into the tank of that vehicle, and then when it's used up, you just drain it and put in another. So there are other opportunities and technologies being looked at. What we need to do as Nigerians, our research institutions, our private sector, is to say, okay, this is Nigeria. We need to power electric vehicles. What are those specific solutions that we as a nation can come up with to suit our purposes? It doesn't have to be a global solution. Yes, there's a global momentum, but we need to look inward, like Kaduna Polytechnic is doing, to find new solutions to this potential.
Thanks. You talked about it still on the issue of batteries. Let's return to Zaka. Zaka, in our Lagos Network studios. You recall that we used to have battery makers in this country. Some of the most famous included Berek in Kaduna, Berek at Isolo in Lagos. I do not know whether there is any battery maker in Nigeria as of today. Berek probably closed shop well over 25 years or so ago. And if you look at the population of vehicles that we have in Nigeria today, each of which uses a battery now, and then we are saying, look, we are ready to join the world in these new electric cars. Are we going to be a dumping ground again for batteries? Or what do we need to do to incentivize battery production in this country?
We are definitely not going to be a dumping ground. Everything depends on us. And like we said, we are not talking about alkaline batteries this time around. We are talking about rechargeable batteries. And as we speak, the major raw material is lithium. There is a liquid, what basically, as you said, everything should be simplified. There is what we call liquid electrolyte. That is what is primarily going to be used at the moment. But there is a need to go to also graduate from liquid electrolyte to something that will be like a solid material so that the batteries will last long. What we will ask ourselves as Nigerians is this: with this global campaign, if we come down locally, what can we contribute? The basic raw material is lithium. Do we have lithium in Nigeria? As of today, no. But probably DR Congo has, Zimbabwe has, and other economies. What can we produce? As far as I'm concerned, as far as the crude oil is concerned, or the oil and gas industry is concerned, or petrochemicals, we can produce the containers. We can produce the containers. So from just the containers alone, from just petrochemical, the containers, that means at least we have one component we can produce. That is enough for us to key in. Then with time, as we graduate from electrolytes, going into something solid, what can Nigeria contribute? And that is where technology comes in. So by the time we combine what we have today, or what we can guarantee we can produce, that is the plastic containers, with technology, what can we contribute? We are not even talking about the global drive or campaign, but locally, what can we contribute? So already we have something that we can contribute. But with technology, with dynamism, with research, we can contribute more.
Well, thanks a lot, Zaka. Let's get the thoughts of Professor Moloye on this issue with regard to what Nigeria can contribute. Of course, a car has several components. There are different parts. We're talking about, Zaka is talking about contributing the casing for the battery, which is a byproduct of petrochemical industry. But there are also tires, and we have seen what has happened to tire makers in this country. Michelin, we've seen what happened to Dunlop, and yet the basic raw materials you need for tire production are still with us.
Thank you very much. I want to say that there are many other things can contribute. Technology is one, which is major. There are many nations today that don't have any single raw material, and yet they are leading the area of industrialization because they have technology. So Nigeria has technology, that's number one. Two, silicon plays a major role in electronics. Nigeria has one of the purest level of silicon deposits that can be used to produce a number of electronic components. The solar cell is produced from silicon. We can also produce it. So we talk about charging. Charging is moving from even generator to solar-powered charging, which we can also produce in this country. So we have many things to produce, to contribute. If you don't have technology, then no matter the raw material you have, others will get your raw material cheaply and convert it. But we have technology, we have other raw materials. So we are in line, we are in shape to be part of this move. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. But gentlemen, I'd like us to also speak to the issue of charging, because just a few days ago, this is energy. We had guests here from the power sector, and, you know, we're still grappling with issues of getting energy for domestic use at home. But then how do we get energy now for charging? What provisions need to be made? If we're still having issues trying to get energy for just domestic use, then how would this be possible for the use of cars?
I think that touches on a really even bigger opportunity and challenge, because I strongly believe what we're dealing with in Nigeria is really not a lack of resources. We're dealing with the phenomenon of the belief in ourselves. I think is a philosophical and psychological challenge. We talk about the lack of electricity and other infrastructure, but I think if we come down to the individual level, if each Nigerian believes that he or she can make a difference and then make their contribution, we will come up with the necessary solutions. Yes, there's challenges in electricity. Like you said, we're struggling to power our homes and offices, and why are we even talking about powering vehicles with electricity? But we need to sit down and say, okay, how do we come up with the necessary solutions to move this country forward? It has been done before in other places, and we can do it. Like I mentioned, when we engage some foreign partners, they never saw the lack of electricity as a stumbling block, because they know that if they're allowed to come in, they can come up with those solutions. So why don't we as Nigerians say we have solar insolation? We have that capacity to generate renewable energy. We can use that to power our homes, offices, agriculture, and vehicles. It can be done. So I think all we need to do is to believe in ourselves, believe in a better new Nigeria, each person being practically oriented to really work together and come up with the necessary solutions. We can do it.
If you're talking about the solar panels, Kingsley, you agree with me that solar panels, they don't come cheap. And even that, you know, there's still a lot of work that still needs to be done. If you have it in your home, it doesn't last more than certain hours, and after a while, it packs up.
Which actually, can we make a comparison again for the benefit? Because I asked this question, gentlemen, and I'm returning again to the question in terms of the mental transition that end users would need to make. In other words, if you say, all right, we now have on the market electric cars, and I'm going to buy one. What are the kind of issues I will be concerned about? Chade, I would like you to speak to this before we go to Lagos. We have inverters today in the Nigerian economy, and this is supposed to be a supplementation, if you like, or even an alternative to public power supply. But you know how the inverter goes. The inverter cannot power all of your needs, and the duration is also limited. Is there any relationship between the experience we're having with inverters today versus what we're likely to have with electric cars?
I think the solution is in the technology itself, to come up with the people who would understand the technology, be involved in the design, the development, and at the end go into production for the market. Once that is done and that infrastructure is in place, they will be looking at these particular problems of how long the battery lasts, is the inverter powerful enough. You know, once that is in place, we're going to have solutions to all these problems, one after another. The solution is really the technology. The lithium battery that's used in electric vehicles is the technology, the electronics, the interfaces, the software. Once we have mastered that, the issue of the duration, the issue of can we power a building with it would all be taken care of once we have control of the technology. And I think that's the solution, and that's our approach in the
how do we get that or gain that control over technology? Professor Amoloya in Lagos, I would like you to speak to this in terms of what an end user needs to worry about, or how the concerns of an end user would need to be addressed by producers of electric cars, using the experience that we've had with inverters to power our homes and offices.
Thank you very much. The extent to which your solar panel, your solar power can go, how long it can last, depends on the design. Today, a number of people don't do design. And so instead of using the number of battery that will make it last number of hours you desire, they just put a number of batteries together. As long as it produces current, they say they have installed solar power for you. When it's properly designed, there is a number of batteries that's needed for a number of hours. So when it's properly designed, you can design for 24 hours, and it will last 24 hours. So design is important, which we also have. The technology is available for that. And I also want to say that for individuals with respect to charging, there are two ways of charging. Currently, the one we make, we also incorporate into it the charger into the electric vehicle. So the one I use, when I get to the house, after I plug it in front of the house, overnight is fully charged. And I don't go long distance. I can use for about 1 week or 2 weeks before I recharge again, plugging into the outside socket in my house. So that is one way. But the commercial way is that companies will come up with what we call the charging stations. These charging stations can use big generator, and what they do is that people that use electric vehicle will register with them. They will have these stations in many cities, even along the way. And so when you find that your battery is about to run down through the signal you are seeing, you drive into the nearest one, just like you go to filling center to go and buy. You get there. Now, the technology go to the extent now that the battery packages can be drawn out. They draw it out and put the one they already charged because it's commercial. They're making money from it. They push it inside for you. Within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you drive off. At the end of the month, there's a little amount of money you pay to them for registering for the charging of a battery. Now, that's using generator, but you don't even have to use generator. Solar energy is limitless. As long as you have the surface area to put the solar panel, you can generate the one that a city can use. So once you have the surface area sufficient, though it's capital intensive, but on the long run, you find that you don't even use money again. You don't spend money to maintain solar electricity. So you can design for a very large amount of energy depending on the capital you have. So you can use solar panel in charging stations that will be charging for people, and they just come in and you replace their battery package. They go. They don't have to spend more than 5 minutes there. Thank you.
Samole, are you saying that you're actually using an electric car now, and did you actually drive into our studios there?
So they showed you the white one is the one I'm using. I've used it now for 2.5 years.
That was going on didn't affect you at all. Professor, I'm asking, this fuel scarcity didn't... Is that quite clearly he wasn't affected by that. Let's take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Chief. Good morning, sir. You are here already?
No, now my spirit day, my body day for house. What kind of question is that? Were you not the one that fixed this meeting for 8 a.m.? You are now coming by 10 a.m. and start asking me job question.
But Chief, now, I'm sorry. Don't you also go late for meetings sometimes? You know now, African time.
No more African time. And no more pancaking of face during office hours. At the end of the day, we will lose valuable time. We will not make progress. If we want to move this nation forward, we must treat business as business and respect time. Change begins with me.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Can we go for the meeting now, Chief?
Later.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are discussing the advent of the electric cars and the implications that will have for us in Nigeria. I was just talking about batteries just while we were on a short break. We were having some good laugh as to the big booming business that might come in for battery chargers and so on and so forth, and what might happen if you were on a bus, for instance, and the battery suddenly runs down, and the conductor and the driver says, "Everybody, bole." All right, so let's return to the thick of all of this. Jelani, my question is as follows. Only a couple of decades ago, and we were also just trying to gravitate towards that in Nigeria. We're talking about hybrid cars. In other words, vehicles that could also use fuel or also use gas. You know, I mean, Americans would say gas, meaning PMS. But let's say here you use gas, the one with you have a cylinder inside the trunk, and then you also have petrol. What implication what implication does the electric car have for such hybrid cars?
Well, the hybrids are more of a stepping stone towards pure electric vehicles. For example, Tesla just in the last couple of weeks unveiled a 500-mile semi-truck. This is reality. So electric vehicles are here, and they will disrupt the whole automotive ecosystem globally. So hybrid, just a stepping stone. The full development would be on 100% electric vehicles.
There was an issue Kingsley raised earlier, and that's the issue of manufacturing these electric cars in Nigeria. For now, as it seems, we import at least a large number of the vehicles we use here. And are we going to see an import of electric cars, or is it possible we begin to see a manufacturing of those cars in Nigeria?
Well, the NADDC, our agency, would do three things. Number one, we will work with the current supplies of vehicles in Nigeria, and then understand what electric vehicles they sell across the world and have them begin to provide them in Nigeria. And then at the same time, we will work with local producers, local manufacturers, to see how they can develop indigenous electric vehicles. We'll also work with institutions of higher learning, polytechnics, universities, to see how they can teach courses that deal with the development and innovation of electric vehicles, so that we create, graduates who would be out there that would be part of this industry. So I'm very glad to learn of what Kaduna State Polytechnic is doing, and I look forward to working even closer with them to see how we could really create this cadre of young Nigerians who would be innovative towards that sector.
Okay, well, thanks. Professor Amolaye, back again to you, gentlemen, in the Lagos Network Studios. Let's look at the transition phase. What are we likely to witness, the transition from the current internal combustion engines to the electric cars? Will it be possible to convert an internal combustion engine as we see them now to electric vehicles? Just as, perhaps the simplest one to say, converting from left-hand drive to right-hand drive.
Yes, thank you. It is indeed the first stage in electric automobile, getting a fuel combustion engine, removing the engine and coupling electric engine into it. The one that we brought on road in 2010, that was what we did. We got a vehicle from Nigerian market, removed the engine, and coupled electric engine in it. And that's the one that was showcased 2011, I think both on AIT and NTA. It was conversion of fuel combustion engine to electric vehicle. But the ideal one is to get the electric vehicle body. There's a difference. The difference is because fuel combustion engine is very heavy. So it limits the speed and runs down the battery faster. But when you get the electric vehicle body, it's very light. So that helps you to have a longer range of drive and make the battery to last longer. So we can start from that conversion. But the ultimate is that moment we start to have assembly plan for bodies, they will start to assemble the light-bodied vehicle body that can be used for electric mobility. Thank you.
I just wonder, Professor Amolaye, please clarify this. In physics, velocity is also said to be a contributor to increased fuel consumption. Why would it not be that you are running faster on electric cars and you are consuming less fuel, namely electricity?
Thank you. Electric vehicle capacity is determined by the distance it can cover. When you move faster, it will run for a shorter time, cover the same distance. If you run slower, it will move for a longer time, cover the same distance, and then you recharge. So the main factor is the distance coverage for electric vehicle, not really the speed. Speed does not determine how its capacity, it is how long it can go. When you use higher speed, it means that you get there faster, but then the distance will be covered before you have to recharge.
Thank you very much, Professor Moleye. We're already getting tweets from our Twitter handle, that is at NTAGMN, from our viewers, and it's already scrolling. You can be a part of the conversation. Let us know your thoughts, and of course, if you have questions on this, our guests, we're all here to answer.
Yeah, Rhoda, just one question here that I would like the guests to also speak to is this. This is coming from Aziz Akinshola, and as Rhoda indicated, you probably will see that pop up on the scroll on the screen in a short while. Aziz Akinshola is asking this question. It says, do facilities like the air conditioning system and radio also function on the electric cars? And also, does the battery recharge itself like it does in internal combustion system? Professor Moleye first, and then Zaka, and then we'll come to Jelani.
Electric vehicle uses all the electronic gadgets of fuel combustion engine. The first set that came out, they were without air condition. But now there are air conditions in them. The first one we did didn't have air condition. The second one we did, we designed air condition into it, and we still have it today. The air conditioner is functioning inside it. So all the gadgets today can be installed into it.
What about the charging? You know, like the battery you have now that powers the electrical and electronic systems in the internal combustion. Does the battery recharge? You know, you have the alternator where they say when the brush in the alternator is working very well, it will be recharging. If it's not working well, then you go and make a battery charger. Will this battery be recharging? Why does this battery not recharge itself? Because you have to go and plug in as you are doing now at Covenant.
Yes, there is no perpetual energy engine. That is, there's no engine that generates energy from itself. Even human being needs to eat before energy comes. Fuel combustion gets its own energy from burning fossil fuel. So electric vehicle also gets its own power, either from generator that charges the battery or from solar power source. However, the one that's being worked upon now is the fuel cell. Fuel cell is supposed to be self-generating, and it uses ordinary water. But the technology has not been developed to the extent where it can be commercialized. So that is why we're at the stage of battery-powered electric automobile. Very many years to come, there'll be a shift to fuel cell-powered vehicle, which will generate its own power from just chemical reaction of water. So that's also why Nigeria is trying to think of going into electric vehicle. They should also start research into fuel cell development, which will be the ultimate transportation means in future.
All right, there's also a tweet that we have here, and it's from Festus Akimboyewa. It says, changing from petrol and diesel vehicles to electric vehicles in Nigeria will have to be heavily subsidized by government, which will be a challenge. Bala, Zach, would you actually speak to that? Subsidizing these electric vehicles, he said that will actually be a challenge for the government.
One thing that we must accept is that Nigeria is a third world country. Nigeria is an emerging economy. Nigeria is an importing economy. Nigeria has a very weak currency. The only way Nigerians can come out of the woods and be able to get to a level where they can leverage on so many advantages and support themselves is by them being supported by government. So if we will call it subsidy, if we will call it cushion economy, cushioning, whatever terminology or semantic we are going to bring in is necessary, because it's very, very practical. Even when we talk about the fossil fuel, if you look at it very well, we decided we are talking, if we try to deregulate, we will grind this economy to a halt, because the economy is already a weak economy. At best, we will need to liberalize it. If we're not going to subsidize and support Nigerians as government today, I'm not talking about tomorrow, there will be a need to subsidize. But in the worst case, we can liberalize the economy. But going back to our discussions, I mean, it's very clear that probably more than a decade ago, Nigerians have been thinking about the dynamics of electric cars. More than a decade ago, Nigerians have started working on electric cars. Probably more than 5 years ago, Nigerians have tested and have driven electric cars, designed, improvised, and locally produced or improvised and driven within Nigeria. That simply means we are already a part of that kinetics that will take advantage of this global shift, you know, as far as this campaign is concerned. So the key thing now is I think we need the support of the government. Once there is political support, there is political will, it is very clear that Nigeria is no way behind. Nigeria is at the forefront. And what we also need is that joint partnership that will make us to contribute, even if it is just going to be the casing of the batteries, and to make sure we move our country or economy forward.
All right, I'm wondering, Engineer Zaka, thank you very much. Of course, what we are discussing relates to kinetics, but you've used that word like 3 or 4 times now in the course of your response. Were you in any way consulted by the Cross River State government in preparing or christening their budget as one of kinetic crystallization? All right. Zaka. Okay, well, Zaka, let's take a look at all of this in terms of the context of Nigeria's energy policy. I asked the question about hybrid cars because we saw a few years ago the Ministry of Petroleum started, dispensing fuel, if you like, to hybrid vehicles. I think some 2,000 or 3,000 of them were put on the road somewhere in Edo State and other parts of the country. Now, what would the advent of the electric cars and all the knock-on effect mean for our energy policy? We're talking about, okay, keeping all the refineries running by 2019. We're talking about greenfield refineries. We're talking about modular refineries. So what would all of this mean in terms of the new dynamics that we are seeing?
You are going to just have realignments. Parts will be changed. That's all that is going to happen. And once you introduce these changes in parts, then you will gradually, adjust them and make sure they key in. And once they key in, and then everything will go on. And let me explain that broadly. When we talk about global energy, there are different sources of energy. In probably the 20th century, we started with coal. And as I can defend it, or I can explain to you that till this moment, the industrialized nations are still using coal to generate electricity. We graduated from coal and we came to fossil fuel for environmental reasons, and probably we wanted to get something cleaner. And we came to crude oil. From crude oil, we graduated into gas. Remember, from gas alone, if we use gas and we drive turbines, we can still generate electricity. But because we wanted something more refined, something more, simpler, and something probably that will be renewable, we are now graduating to electric cars or electric technology or renewable technology. So life is going to continue like that. The world will continue to be dynamic. At no point are we going to lose. If coal is still the main source of energy generation for the industrial nations today, I can tell you that the coal we have in Nigeria can still be used. The crude oil and the gas we have can still be a source of energy. But as long as technology keeps moving, we need to key in. As long as it is a global campaign, And it is not targeted at undoing a particular country or a particular economy. It is in the duty of Nigeria to key in. And once we key in, we will also hope that politically we are going to get the necessary support from government to key in, leverage, support our economy, and grow our country.
All right, Zaka, thank you very much. Let's come back to Ali with us here in the Abuja studios. I asked the question about what implication this will have for our energy policy, but I would like to elaborate on that by asking to say, look, is your council working in a silo? Because we know that there's a Science and Research Council that the Minister of Science and Technology has been very passionate about. And considering the wide-ranging potential implications that the advent of the electric cars will have on the economy, is this a matter that you think that council should be fully apprised of? Or, again, to ask the question, are you working in a silo?
Well, it's good to know that this current administration is really serious about moving the country forward in reaching out and positively touching the lives of each and every Nigerian, and from the highest level all the way to the lower ones. And NADDC, as part of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, is also committed to this goal. As of now, we are supporting the production of vehicles in Nigeria. A bill just got passed by Senate that would support local production and also limit the importation of substandard vehicles. So when we take this to the next level, NADDC will also be working on a policy and all the relative stakeholders to promote the production and usage of electric vehicles in Nigeria and protect them from unfair importation. So there are a number of benefits that we would get by doing that, but the big thing is we have no option but to go electric, because two things would happen if we don't. Number one, the global pool, the technology is moving away from fossil fuel. So if we don't align ourselves with this new technology, we'll be left out in the cold. And then secondly, if we insist to continue to use fossil fuel powered vehicles, there might be the possibilities of sanctions from the international community. So based on these two things, and also the fact that these vehicles are more efficient, purely exciting, we have no option but to do that. But NADDC will not be working in a silo. We'll be working with all relative stakeholders, Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, transportation, to ensure that this objective is achieved.
You just said now that if we don't comply after a while, sanctions will be given. I know that, it's all of this is the fact that it's beneficial for the environment also too. But then, is it the environment that is driving this, or it is the technology that is driving this?
Well, an analogy would be everybody has cell phones now, right? And it's easy to say that the world is connected and that it's a global village. But what we're really dealing with, I believe, is the very evolution of human consciousness to a level never before experienced in the history of humanity. Humans are now thinking together. What used to happen maybe 200 years ago only in a community or in a family, now it's happening on a global level. So our relationship within the species, the human species, is changing. Yes, there'll be pockets of misunderstanding, but more and more we'll learn to live with one another better. And this evolution, the psychological evolution, is also affecting our relationship with the environment. We're now saying, this is the only planet that we have. We have to protect it. Yes, in the future, we may be able to go and live on Mars or another planet, but for right now, Earth is all we have. So on a global level, humanity is saying we have to protect our only abode, our only home.
So it's more an environmentally driven.
Environmentally driven primarily, and then now we have the technology too that allows us to do that.
Still on the environment and the implications of the electric cars would have. Again, let's go very quickly to Lagos before we come back to Chadi here. The essence of this, or rather the motive force, is to have cleaner fuel, as it were, because of less emission of greenhouse gases. Professor Omolaye, I'm wondering, what will be the lifespan of a battery, or will the battery last as long as you have a fuel tank now, which obviously only goes bad, once you decide to dispose of the car? And next question to that will be, how do you dispose of a disused battery, considering the implications it will have on the soil?
Right. Thank you very much. The batteries have lifespans. The lead-acid battery lasts between 3 and 4 years. After that, you have to replace the package. But the lithium hydride battery lasts much longer. The number of years they last, how long they last depends on number of times you recharge them. So lithium hydride battery has many, many more times of recharging before it runs out and has to be replaced. But the good thing also is that even the lead-acid battery, when it is dead, you can still sell them today to the manufacturers. They reactivate and then use to couple a new one. So batteries can be recycled after processing. And then you get a rebate on the one that is used up.
Thank you very, very much. But let's come to Engineer Musa Chadi. Of course, your university is doing a lot of work in this area. But then, very, very briefly, what's going to happen to the curriculum? Should it be reviewed? Because based on what you're teaching right now, I'm sure you're still teaching on fuel combustion engines. And should the curriculum be reviewed, or it's actually already being reviewed right now, based on what you're teaching?
What's required to build an electric vehicle is actually already a part of the curriculum. So I think the focus would be on the application of the knowledge to the building of electric vehicles, which is basically what we're doing at the Center for Technology Development. We're looking at the component parts that you need to build the electric vehicle, and really virtually every part of it, from the electric motor to the controls required, the charging of the battery that was mentioned earlier, the coupling to the wheels, the software, all of it is inherent in the current curriculum. So it's really an issue of looking at the electric vehicle, looking at what is in the curriculum, and then looking at the application of what's in the curriculum to building the electric vehicle. Currently at Center for Technology Development, I really don't think we've done anything new. What we've done is look at what is available and then use it to design to solve the problems that confront us.
Okay.
And I think I'm happy to see policies moving in that direction. There are Nigerians, really, very young ones, who hunger for this. Over the past 2-3 years, we've actually taken people off the streets and then put them through a process like this, even with the deficiencies that we have. And we've seen the results. We've seen people transform from not believing in themselves, and then all of a sudden, you see them boasting they want to build robots.
All right. So, Chadi, thanks a lot. Just let's get the final word from Jelani before we thank everybody. What happens to vintage cars? Rolls-Royce, Cadillac, Bugatti, Ferrari.
Very interesting question. Ferrari already has a hybrid vehicle, the Ferrari LaFerrari. Just 2 engines, an internal combustion engine and an electric motor. And it makes this vehicle, super, super fast. So all these vehicles will also migrate. Actually, they will lead because they'll come up with newer, even more powerful electric motors. 700, 1,000 horsepower electric motors. So all these, great vehicles that you mentioned, Rolls-Royce, Bentleys, and Ferraris, in the future they'll all be electric vehicles, but really, really very powerful and dynamic engines.
All right, we'd like to express our gratitude to all our guests, beginning from our Lagos Network Center. As always, we'd like to thank Engineer Bala Zaka, a petroleum engineer and a chartered accountant, always obliging us with your insights on relevant topics. Thank you very much for being with us today. Our appreciation also to James Amoloya, who is a professor and leader of the Electric Automobile Unit Product Development Cluster at Covenant University in Ota, Ogun State. Professor Omoloye, thanks a lot for your contribution, and we wish you a safe drive back in your electric car from Victoria Land in Lagos, where our studio is, to Ota. And then tell those you meet on the way that no fuel scarcity for you.
All right, we would also love to thank Engineer Musa Chadi of the Center for Technology Development and Extension Services, Kaduna Polytechnic. Thank you for coming on Good Morning, Nigeria. And finally, a very big thank you to the Director General of the National Automotive Design and Development Council, Mr. Jelani Aliyu. Thank you for your insights.
My pleasure.
All right, let's quickly go back now to our sport.